What is up, everybody? Mikey Dare Panzernator here with another Hearts of Iron tutorial guide type of deal. And as you can tell by the title, we are going to talk about division designs that I typically use. Now, here, let's just look at the Free American Empire. The AI just has absolute trash divisions. Some of the, they're just disturbing. So you never want to go off of what they're doing. So you want, your divisions. Basically, I'm not claiming these are the best designs. These are just solid designs that I tend to use and generally have success with. So we're going to start off with the bread and butter, the 7-2 infantry. What does 7-2 mean? Well, it means you have 7 infantry and 2 artillery. Why is the combat width down? 14.4. I must have some tech that reduces. Yeah, so I used research all, and so apparently that means I have all the land doctrines. So is there a way to undo that? I don't know. I did research all to basically have all the text, so I wouldn't have to continue playing this game. This is whenever the end of my Italy campaign, just because army experience and just easy thing to do. But basically the combat width should be 20, because infantry have a width of 2 and then artillery have a width of 3, so that's 3, 6, and then 14. So gives you combat width of 20, and basically a general rule of thumb is there are only really 3 sizes you want to build divisions: 10, 20, and 40 combat width. Now you get all these texts, you get these field marshals that can affect the combat width. Maybe adjust the design accordingly. Like 14.4, maybe I can add, like, I don't know, add another artillery or something. 17 infantry, maybe I can do like that. I don't know, I wouldn't do that. Just to start off, you want basically the most important part is the core divisions. You want 7 infantry and 2 artillery. Bread and butter usually works against the AI. The only thing I would maybe change up is maybe remove an infantry and add, or maybe remove an artillery and add another infantry and like a anti-tank gun. I don't know, but this is it all depends on your situation and what's going on. Hopefully, if you're a well-off country, you have other stuff to deal with that. But this is the core. And then for the support companies, these are the ones I like to use. I like engineers because that the entrenchment bonus and the river crossing bonus and everything that gives you is great. Field hospitals, I think almost every division design should, infantry based for sure, should have field hospitals. The experience trickle back and manpower is more than worth it, so that is good. I like recon companies because it apparently I just like putting them there. They're supposed to give you extra movement, and also reconnaissance, which allows you to pick better battle plans. Logistics company, you use less stuff, and signal company, you get better initiative. So I think this means that your troops move a little bit better overall. Generally, these are the 5 I put in pretty much every division, with a few minor exceptions. So 7-2 infantry, if you go on Reddit or whatever and ask people, this one will pop out a lot. Now for mountaineers and marines, basically I do the exact same thing, except instead of using regular infantry, you use mountaineers or marines. Now I know using artillery for marines might not seem like the best idea, but I mean, they still, you look at them, they still have extra attack and movement on rivers, and they have extra 55% attack on amphibious landings. It only really slows you down on forest and jungle, which suck regardless. So I mean, the artillery, you still get a massive bonus, whereas if you remove the artillery, you would get 75. So it does hinder you a lot, but generally, like you would expect, you throw enough soldiers that probably won't work. And also this design, it gives you a better more use out of your marines, because you're not always going to be doing naval invasions. Like if you remember, whenever I was invading America before I puppeted them into the Free American Empire, I used my marines a lot. I kind of actually, I think I ended up using them full scale to help take territory. So having your marines set up like your normal infantry with 2 artillery divisions. Helps you after you make the landing, so that's why I like to do that. Mountain infantry, I would do the same thing, but I typically don't make mountain infantry. I've heard it's a good idea to use mountaineers or marines instead of regular infantry if you have enough equipment to supply them. I typically just don't do that. So that's the infantry. Another infantry is the garrison. Excuse me. This is not like resistance suppression. This is what I use to garrison ports, basically to hold ports and colonies. If I, end up building enough to hold major cities or that sort of thing, this is what I use. Now, mainly I use them for port defense because they're entirely reliant on entrenchment. The combat width is, it's only going to be 12 because it's going to be reduced because land doctrines and my research console command cheating, but you want to have at least 4. I have 4 is the minimum I'm comfortable with. 6 is better, and honestly the more the merrier, because these guys, what you use them for is you just have a field marshal like this army, the my port defense force or whatever. I just have them all over the Mediterranean in the ports that I'm trying to guard, and what do? They just sit there and they build up entrenchment bonus. That's what's important about them. I don't add any of the support companies other than engineers. Ideally, they don't do any fighting, and you just hope that the support bonus helps them out. And if there's a large enough force that pushes them out from away the port you're trying to guard, well, you have a much bigger problem. So that's what I use this for. You could use it to guard cities and victory points and use a garrison order. I think that's a good idea, but I would delete the order once everyone is in position, because a problem I find with garrison orders is if someone makes a landing, everyone moves, and then you lose your entrenchment bonus. And then if you're like guarding the Pacific or the Mediterranean or a bunch of random islands, they'll move all around and get sunk by the enemy. So those are mainly the bread and butter infantry ones. Resistance suppression cavalry, honestly, I don't ever mess with this division. I just take whatever cavalry the AI has given us and maybe add a military police. 4 seems plenty. What you care about is the suppression stat, and well, cavalry have more suppression, so the more you have the better, but honestly it's better to make a lot of small divisions than a couple big divisions when it comes to using that. And those, you use to garrison recently conquered territory, so partisans don't break shit. Paratroopers. I almost never use paratroopers. I don't find them to be useful. I mean, they do have their uses. They'd probably be much better in multiplayer just to make sure, to do some sneaky stuff. But against the AI, I don't know. Paratroopers aren't my favorite, but what I would do is I would basically want them to be combat with 10, maybe smaller, but I like 10. And support companies, sometimes I would use them, sometimes I wouldn't, depending on how confident they are they're going to survive. And that's why I don't add field hospitals, because I just assume that they're going to get encircled and die. So it's a little bleak there, but that is what I do with paratroopers. Now, one thing I want to say before going into the tanks is, well, a couple things. Rocket artillery. I never use rocket artillery because it comes later in the game and I never research it and have time to switch production lines. Typically what I do in the game is I have everything set up before the war starts, and then I just go with it, and I don't exactly change things up a lot between episodes or later in the war. If you want to, by all means. I don't like rocket artillery versus regular artillery. I mean, it just changes stats. My general understanding from what I've heard is rocket artillery is better on defense, and it gives you buffs on offense and gives kind of hurts you a little bit on defense. So that's pretty much everything infantry based. We'll get to Space Marines at the end, but next I want to talk about tanks. Now, notice I only have light tanks. This is why. Basically, you can make the same divisions with medium tanks or heavy tanks. You just replace the light tank with a medium tank or heavy tank, or if you ever get to the end of the war, modern tanks. So basically, I do 2 types of tank divisions. If I don't have that much production, I'll just do a 10 combat with 2 tanks, 3 motorized divisions. Now, if you have mechanized, use mechanized. Otherwise, you either use, if you don't have anything, use cavalry, which I don't really recommend. Most countries beginning the war, you'll use motorized, and then whenever you have the tech and have built it, you switch to mechanized. Now, note, caution, I have done this in my campaigns. Don't switch immediately. Build some mechanized, equipment before you switch your division designs, because if they're fighting and they switch from motorized to mechanized, they'll just assume they're unequipped and die. I lost 250,000 troops in one game doing that. It's just be careful. Make sure you have enough. Maybe even pull out all of your army divisions and all of that sort of thing. Irregardless of what's going on. Now, so that's the 10 combo with. If you have better production, ideally I would like to build 20. What you do, you add another tank, you add another mechanized, and then you add self-propelled artillery. Another thing to note I didn't mention with the light tanks 10, basically you have the same thing, the same support companies as the infantry divisions, except I switch out field hospitals for maintenance because it's heavily armored guys. They don't have as much manpower, like 9. It's still a lot of manpower, but I don't actually look at it. But you tend not to take as many casualties because these guys tend to win battles a lot better. Now, actually, I completely forgot to do something. Let me duplicate this, and basically, to complement the tank divisions, I like to have motorized infantry. There we go. I knew I was forgetting something. So what I like to do is I like to have these guys in our divisions as well. And then on top of that, I like to have, actually, let's do medium tanks. So let me just get this set real quick. So medium tank or whatever. So there you go. You got your medium tanks. You got your motorized. Motorized, basically, it's the same thing as a tank division, except it's all mechanized or motorized infantry instead of tanks. Again, I like to have light self-propelled artillery, and I mainly use this as Germany or a country with high production. I have an army of 24. I'll have 12 motorized infantry, 6 light tank divisions, and 6 medium tank divisions. I never build heavy tanks. They just don't seem to be worth it. I have plenty of success with medium and light, and heavy tanks have other uses, and those are mainly supporting infantry as opposed to having full-on tank divisions, because these divisions, they're about speed. Max speed 13 kilometers, max speed 13. Medium tanks max speed is going to be a little less, 11. What you want to do with your heavy tanks is just throw them in. If you want to build heavy tanks, which I highly discourage, you just want to throw them in with your infantry because they don't change the max speed at all. So that is that. Light medium tanks. Again, as Italy, I just stuck with 10, but usually as Germany, I'll try and build the 20 size ones, the ones with the self-propelled artillery, just because it's better. I mean, the more, if you can build 20, it's better, but the key objective you want with your tank and motorized divisions is speed, and so if you can only do the size 10 ones, so be it, nothing wrong with that. Now, the last division I'm going to go over, at least I think, me, I can just randomly change, is Space Marines. Space Marines tend to be banned in multiplayer games for one simple reason. The only real way to counter Space Marines is with other Space Marines. Well then, why don't you only use Space Marines? It makes the game boring as hell, and it takes a lot of equipment. Now, the goal of Space Marines is to take minimal casualties and inflict maximum casualties. They're designed to chew through manpower and win the war against the AI that way. I only use them in campaigns at stalemates, and well, this is the general idea. What you have is you have a 40 combat with division. Everyone differs on how they do it. The general idea is you have heavy tanks that are heavy tank destroyers, and then you have a shit ton of artillery and a shit ton of infantry. I throw in an AA just because. So let's go over this. Support battalions. I use field hospitals because this is primarily an infantry-based division. Why do I do a stack of Marines and a stack of Mountaineers? I don't know. It makes me feel better. you know, if you're committing to Space Marines, you're committing to a heavy industrial burden, so you might as well go all the way. You could do it just infantry. I do this because you get bonuses and, you know, slight bonuses in mountains and amphibious and rivers and all that. But you know what is better off than not having it. With all the artillery and all the bonuses, well, soft attack probably wouldn't be this high, but soft attack gets really freaking high. Especially if you take a superior firepower doctrine. That's what I would recommend with this. If you do tanks, I do, you know, motorized one. But if you're gonna do Space Marines or just a regular army, I think superior firepower is probably the best overall doctrine in my opinion. But people differ about that. So, well, what is the rationale behind this? Well, 40 combat width, you make them as big as possible because you want them to stay in fights as long as possible. Get, you know, high organization 96. I think that's partially due to having all the text, which you won't, but the organization is pretty high. So this is basically what happens. You basically picture your heavy tank destroyers line up in front, then you have a bunch of infantry behind them, and then artillery rains hell. They can't hurt you because these heavy tank destroyers up your defensive stats, your defense, and your, I think it's piercing, or what is it? Is it breakthrough? How many attacks you can attempt to avoid while offense? Basically, okay. So yeah, it basically buffs your defensive stats, and so basically you have infantry for size, artillery for killing power, and heavy tank destroyers for what's it called, for the defensive stats. I've thrown in anti-air just because why not? I mean, if you don't have it, it's one less combat with, so I guess you could like remove this and add another tank or something. I don't know. I like having an anti-air, so, or an anti-tank, so it's whatever. Space Marines are fun. They typically win. It's just you do have problems supplying them. They're very slow. You know, they're infantry divisions, and it's basically just a way to grind out a war. So these are the, you know, again, these are the primary divisions I have. I might do another video. I would do a video on army composition, like how many divisions per army and what I use them all for. But the next update, I think it's I don't know what it's not oak. It's like whatever. The next update's gonna change the general structure. So I'll probably, once I figure out what to do with that, then I'll do another video. But these are the division designers. The division designs that I enjoy using, that I find success with. Hope this helps you out. If you have any questions, be sure, you know, leave me a comment. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Go away, stupid cavalry. And any tips, you know, if you want, I'm gonna keep making these tutorials. Hope you enjoyed them, and if you want anything in particular, leave a comment. I will look into it, and I will give whatever advice I have. So that's my division designs. They're not mine. This is a conglomeration. You know, what I did is I watched other people do YouTube videos on division designs, and you know, picked the ones I like the most, picked the ones, you know, kind of went from there and experimented and figured it out. So hope this helps you. You know, hope it helps you conquer the world and set up this fascist paradise I have right now, or to preserve democracy or spread the revolution, whatever you choose to do. Hope this helps you out. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, please, if you like, comment again. If any questions, any requests, and any of that sort of stuff. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, so you can catch my Let's Plays and and see the other tutorials. And as well, follow me on Twitter at Panzernator. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope to see you all in the next episode. Hope this one helps you out. And until the next episode, this is Panzernator signing out. See you, nerds.